What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show. Me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today I am looking ahead to KSW 103, which goes down February 21st, 2025, over in Liberec in the Czech Republic. And it's very interesting that KSW are putting on a card in the Czech Republic. And I kind of wanted to start off talking about that, because why is it interesting they're putting on a card in the Czech Republic? Because of Octagon. And Octagon, as people probably have known, there's an Octagon event this week, and funnily enough, there's an Octagon this week when KSW are going on in the Czech Republic. Octagon come from the Czech Republic. It's their home base. They have most of their cards there. Their owners and all of that are from there. They have a lot of Czech fighters and do big events over there. And I think it's a very, very interesting time for European MMA. I think it was at the end of last year maybe that I mentioned this year was going to be a big year, and I think it is. Like there are a few interesting things happen, like these two events obviously kind of going up against each other. I'm hearing rumors that there is another big European event going directly up against another big European event, which has already been announced, type of thing. So I feel like the war for Europe maybe is on between the likes of KSW, Octagon, Cage Warriors, PFL Europe, and we'll see who else kind of gets involved, because it's a very, very interesting time. I think people have seen that there's been a whole load of really talented European fighters emerging on the scene over the last few years, whether it's, Tapuria, Ian Gary, a lot of Irish guys, a lot of guys from the UK, Paddy Pimblett, Marab Dashvili, and Tom Aspinall, and loads more over the last few years. And if you look at, say, what KSW have done, I say, let's go first of all at the very top level. They have created a place where fighters like that can look at Mamed Khalidov or others can say either a large part of their career or their whole career, or say someone like Gamrot, they can have a brilliant career and then end up, say, going to the UFC and doing big things over there. Or, there's many other examples as well. Or say even someone like, let's say, a Phil DeFries or a Norman Park or something like that, who had their career in another place, came over and they had another career or a second part of their career in a KSW or in an Octagon. Or look at Will Fleury in Octagon at the moment, what he's doing. So I am fascinated by this scene, and I'm fascinated by all the decisions these people are making, and all the fights that are put on. And I would say with KSW coming in here, and I was looking, so KSW at the moment have this card announced, and then they have another card coming up next month. But KSW, we know they kind of usually do the 12 events a year, so I wouldn't be necessarily worried about, we have KSW 103, 104. I wouldn't be worried about 105, 106. We kind of probably know when they will, if they're not already announced, when they by the time this comes out, when they will be out. But at the same time, if you were to, and someone asked me about this the other day, and we'll get into the card in a few minutes here, but I think this is an interesting conversation. And someone actually asked me about Cage Warriors. Like, is Cage Warriors going to hurt because of PFL Europe? I think they asked, but Octagon as well, and and I'll tell you my answer to that in a second, but we'll skip to the conclusion maybe at the end. And what I thought, looking at this card, looking at the next card, I actually think KSW have probably hurt the most because of the resurgence, I suppose, of Cage Warriors, the new surge from Octagon and the new surge from PFL Europe, obviously, as well. I think there are a good few fighters that maybe would have gone the KSW route, who maybe are being signed by other promotions now, and I think that could be a problem for them. Now, at the same time, they still have very good fighters. They have a good event coming up here. Kuberski and Romanovsky is a very good fight coming up next month as well. But I think they probably have, if you were to chalk it down and look at a lot of the fighters who are signing for Octagon, let's say, where would they have been before? Maybe a Cosma, or maybe even, let's say, a Will Fleury now. Like, where would he have gone? Like, he could very well have gone to KSW, and they haven't been doing that. Whereas I think other promotions, say, like, let's take the other three. Let's take PFL Europe, Cage Warriors, and Octagon. If you look, and maybe this isn't always the case, right? But go with me here for a second. You look at any of those cards from those organizations at the moment, and you will invariably find a couple of fighters who have fought elsewhere. Like, there's the Irish card coming up in a few weeks, the Cage Warriors card. There's a lad who used to fight in Octagon on it. There's a lot, this weekend, the former Cage Warriors stand out as in the main event. You know, they've had, in Sam Greasy, they have Jack Cartwright and all that over in Octagon. And a lot of we see in PFL Europe as well. They've had, guys who fought in Cage Warriors or fought in other places as well. Whether it's, there's loads of guys. There's plenty of examples of that, and some even in PFL Mean and things like that. So those are kind of sharing. I don't know if KSW have kind of got into that yet. Whereas, I think, let's say PFL Europe, they have an 8-man tournament. One lad maybe wins a fight, and then the next year is like, okay, you're not in the tournament. But he's a very talented guy. Let's say Franz Malambo. Here's an example. Imagine he didn't Franz signs for Octagon, or he signs for KSW, or he signs for Cage Warriors. He'd be really good signing for them. So actually, it might benefit the other guys. And I so far, that's what's happened. A lot of people are, I think, right in their assumption that it might hurt, but I think it's benefited. But for KSW, again, I'm not sure if they've gone on that train yet. I'm not sure if they've felt the benefit from that yet. But at the same time, KSW probably have an advantage in that they had guys like Haladov, Paranas, Phil DeFries, who can headline cards and are stars. So they're kind of building from the bottom up some of their fighters rather than having to make stars. We always want to make new stars at the same time. So I just think it's interesting to have it, to think about that and to think where things are going to go, and where where a lot of these events are and the strength of these events. Because if you're thinking of putting on an event in the Czech Republic, if you're KSW, I think you really have to be thinking about Octagon and what Octagon are going to be doing. Like, the Octagon card this week is also on the Czech Republic. Like, it's on in Třinec. I probably should have looked up the geography. Maybe we can put a map of the Czech Republic in here somewhere, how far away they are. But I'd be interested. I'm no expert in, obviously, the business of Czech MMA or anything like that, but maybe the next time I have Brian on, I can ask him about that. And it's like we've seen it before, where the UFC cards that have been announced, let's say for a London, have hurt Bellator cards in the past. They've been, I remember that MVP versus Paul Daly one. There was no one at it, because hold on, we'll wait and we'll buy the UFC ones instead. I'd be interested to see if something like that has happened, or people just go to everything. Like, they can't this weekend, but it's very, 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 very interesting times, and we'll see how all of that works out. But let's get to the fights, and let's talk about them. And I'm going to start off with the main event: Leo Brechta versus Lukas Harzewski in the main event. Two guys who've been around the scene for a while. Brechta, 12-5 and 1 no contest from the Czech Republic. And, if you look back through his record and you look at 2021, where did he fight? Now, this is going against my point I made a minute ago, but he fought in Octagon. He fought many times in Octagon. He's fought against Roman Paradisa, arguably one of the best guys over in Octagon. He lost there recently, but I fought Mikhail Kahoot, who fought recently, Damian Lapalus as well. I've seen in the UFC and other places, but he's been in KSW now for a minute, and he's had 4 fights there. Ended up losing his last 2. Losing his last 1 in KSW. Lost a fight outside over in Real Fight as well. But he's back now, and this guy's a really talented guy, and we'll talk more about him in a second. But his opponent, Lukas Harzewski, 13-2-1. His career has played out, I suppose, around Europe as well. A lot in FEN, mostly in FEN. But he's been in KSW for his last 2 fights, 1-on-1 as well. Won his last one, got a nice decision there. A lot of decisions on his record. 11 of his fights have gone to a decision, and I suppose you can tell why by looking at him. He's a wrestler, and a talented one at that. And before I get into any more, shout out to my guy Sean Dinney for helping me with some of the facts, figures, and pronunciations around some of these lads. He's always absolutely fantastic. If you aren't following Sean Denny's work, please do. He does a lot of previews over in Severe May, and he goes to all of these KSW events. So great man to follow there. Denny rants over in there. But to get back to Lucas, just a kind of a grinder. I love the way. And I'm always giving out about this, so I'm naturally going to love it. But he never gives up on his takedowns, right? I don't think he's necessarily the best, single leg or double leg artist in the world, but he never stops. And I like how he sets him up to he jabs his way into takedowns. And do you know one other thing that's very odd about him that you don't see from many fighters, especially wrestlers, is, okay, so I just said there, he jabs his way into takedowns, and a lot of the time he doesn't get them. So what happens then? Anyone out there, little quiz, what happens? Clinch. There's going to be a clinch in the middle of the cage. I said that really weirdly. I said it like an American. Going to be a clinch. But he doesn't like the clinch. And it's not that he's not good at it, because he's strong and he's not bad at all in the clinch. But he always breaks out of the clinch. Always breaks out of it, which is very, very unusual for a wrestler. And I think I would nearly go as far as to say the best part of his game is his dirty boxing, which again, funny enough, I spoke to Randy Couture about it there a couple of weeks ago, and it's definitely a part of the game that's kind of dying out, but he has brought it back, a resurgence. He's so good at elbows off the break and kind of offensive elbows off the break. He breaks elbows and clinches again, but clinches only again to do something with it, and it's really good. It's really, really good. On the feet, we don't see a whole lot. A solid all-rounder. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. He can throw his hands. But as I said, the amount of knockouts he has in his career, only 2 at 32 years of age. It's not a whole lot, and that's not surprising considering the way he fights. But he can fight on the feet. But I'll say it again, that jab is a good weapon. The biggest issue I think he has on his feet is that when he's forced to fight there, as I said, he never gives up on the takedown, and that's one thing I will definitely and continue to say about him. But when he's forced to fight on the feet, he's really open to being countered. And that's going to be an issue against Leo Brekta. As I said, from Prague in the Czech Republic, 27 years of age, and he has a background in Muay Thai and kickboxing as well, but a very, very attacking style. He can fight on the ground as well. He's won 4 fights by submission in his career, lost 3 fights by submission, which I think Harzewski will probably be looking to take advantage of if he at all can. But I would describe him as a fighter as very loose on the outside, but loose head movement, and I mean that as a compliment. Very hard to hit, and the point I was making about Harzewski about being hard or being easy to counter, Brekta is a very, very, very good counter fighter, especially counters kicks well. Now, I don't think Harzewski's the biggest kicker in the world, but if he does throw a few, I think it might be issues. But he does counter the jab very well. He counters everything very, very well. I think, and he kind of sits down on those punches and comes up a lot of time with straights. But you could see the left hooks over the top as well. One of the other things I really like about him is how he flows from kind of a high to low defensive position, so you don't know the angle which his counters are going to come from, which is really, really, really good. I think his biggest issue, if Harzewski's biggest issue is the counters, I think his biggest issue is he has been taken down in fights. I watched his fight against, I think, was it the Roman Szymanski fight, where he got taken down multiple times in that fight and laid upon a lot. So I think, there's no doubt about it here that I think Harzewski has a chance, but I think I'm going to lean Brekta. Maybe it's my kickboxing bias here, but I like his style. I like the way he throws his hands. I like those counters. I do think Harzewski will end up taking him down. The fact he's not the biggest finisher in the world, I would say Harzewski has really good cardio as long as his opponent doesn't. But I think if Brekta has good cardio, and if he can outlast him, I think it will be, he'll be able to pick him off the later the fight goes. Like, you look at the last few fights. Okay, he lost his last 2 fights, but bricked his last 4 fights. Went to the 5th round decision, went to the 4th round, lost, but won by a finish in the 3rd round, won a decision in the 3rd round as well in the fight before that. So he's well able to go along. So if I'm forced to give a pick, I'm gonna pick Brickda, but I don't say it with a whole lot of certainty there, to be honest. Right, let's talk about the main event. That one was in the lightweight division. This is in the light heavyweight division. Damian Pivorchik against Bartosz Shevchik, who's 8-3 and 1. Damian is 27 years of age. I think this is his 10th KSW fight at the moment. He trains with Arik Vorshek, someone asked me the other day who's one of the best heavyweight prospects in the world, and I named him, and I really do think he is. The former gym of Jan Blachowicz, training at there, but really good kickboxing game, tall, big guy. We'll talk more about him in a second, but his opponent, Bartosz, 8-3 1, 27 years of age, was on the Contender Series. He's a former FEN champion, trains out of Ankos in Poznan. Very good kickboxer, but a submission game as well. Action-packed style. And, at 8-3 1, he's the type of guy, I think, that will improve that record pretty quickly, because he lost his last one, as I said, in the Contender Series. He'd won 3 in a row before that. It was a draw on the record before that. So, the 2 losses in his 2 of his losses in his career came earlier. One of them is against Simon Bajor in his 4th fight, who has gone on to be a pretty good fighter after that. So watching him fight is going to be exciting, but Damian on the other side of it has a lot to fight for. He lost his last 2, but you look at this. So sometimes you look at a guy's record and go 8-4 and go 8-4. He mustn't be much good. But the level of opponent he has fought has been unbelievably high. He lost his last 2, but it was Marcin Wojciech and Rafael Hartik, who are 2 of the top guys around. Before that, he lost to Bartosz Lesko and Bogdan and Ginko, again 2 top guys. He's been in there as well with Kleber Silva. He's beaten him. And a few other good lads as well in his career. So, this is a case, I think, more records are for DJs. He doesn't have the best record in the world, but this lad can fight, and he's young, 6'6" as well, massive for the for division. His opponent is 6'4" as well, so not that much of a difference. But he is a big guy, and Damian, watching his fights, again, serious opponents, but he's long, and he's the type of fighter that, if you like that type of fighter, you'll really like him. So he's a little bit of a Diaz in him. He throws like the weird hand things like that. He does that an awful lot. He's all teeps and knees, so he's long, kick you to the body, toes to the gut, toes to the liver, big knees when he comes inside. Green as grass though, again, and I watched a couple of his fights, from one fight recently and one fight from let me just see exactly when it was. I think it was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And he only made his debut in 2019, had 1 fight in, and the rest of his fights were from 2021. I'd like to see maybe more of an improvement in him, but there definitely have been improvements with him. And I feel like if this guy can put it together and continue to improve and improve and improve, he has the athleticism, the size, and do you know one thing he has that a lot of people don't have? He's not afraid, and afraid is the wrong word, but none of these fighters are afraid of anything, right? But he's not. A lot of people are reluctant to throw their shots. He isn't. He will go in and he'll throw his shots, win or lose. He will do it, and when you have a guy like that, if it turns for him and he starts winning all his fights, by God, a fighter like that is very, very, very dangerous. And that's how I would describe him. And his opponent in Bartosz, I had to go back and I had to check if this was at light heavyweight, because this guy is rapid fast. And I watched some of these fights yesterday, and I watched some of his fights just before I started here today. And I was excited to come on here and talk about this guy because, again, look, the record isn't the best in the world, but you can see why the Dana White Contender Series wanted him. A lot of finishes, 7 finishes in his career, 6 knockouts out of 8 wins. Like, so that's really good. One, obviously, 1 submission thrown in there as well. But I was described him as a very patient counter fighter while always looking for the KO. You know, good on the ground as well when it hits there, but very rarely gets taken down. You know, so this is going to be a kickboxing match, and you know, if I'm pushing him at my pick here, I really don't know. Like, this is the type of fight where, at the moment, if you're to push me on a pick now, I'm going to go with Bartosz Sevcik, right? But if you're to ask me who'd win this fight in 2 years, I might go with Damien. So maybe those improvements have already happened, and maybe, you know, it's just, as I said, new gym, recently moved to Warsaw. Sean was like a Unique Fight Club, I think is the name of the gym. Shout out to Sean Denny. This is a very, very interesting one, and if he can kind of make those improvements defensively as well as offensively, I think he could have a chance. But at the moment, it's hard to look against Bartosz here in this one. But a very exciting, especially at light heavyweight, you know, a division which is much maligned at times, but they have plenty of good guys in that region fighting in the light heavyweight division. The next fight in is in the middleweight division. Dominik Humberger against Boris Zizowski. Humberger, we've talked about him many times before in this. He's 8-2 and has had a good few KSW fights. But again, for a guy so young in his career to have been in there with Bartosz Lesko, you know, Adrian Dudek, Mikhail Michalek, Boris Borkowski, and a few more as well. It's unheard of, really, in most places. And, you know, maybe getting a little bit of a step back here in terms of record of the opponents, but maybe not in terms of the actual fight itself. So Humberger is 29, and we all remember him. He's the soldier who has big power, and you know, he carries it and he keeps going non-stop. Good on the ground as well, nasty ground and pound. You know, maybe after that it's a bit of a struggle, but that's where he has. And then Boris on the other side of it again as well, 27 years of age, his 5th KSW fight, very, very strong. Again, a striker, very, very good knockout threat, but maybe he might have the advantage in the wrestling and the submission game. You know, he's 27 years of age now, and he only made his debut in 2022, so a bit of a latecomer, I suppose, to these ranks. But be interesting to see how this goes. I think Humberger's probably the pick in that one, so we'll see how that goes. The next fight I want to talk about, and we'll run through maybe the rest of them after this, but this is an outstanding fight to me. Ireland's own Henry Felipe is cut in there against Stephen Kerr, taking this on short notice. You know, Felipe 14-12 and 1. And you know, he had a bit of a tough start, you know, in his career, with a lot of, like, you see some of the guys that he fought in his career were some of the best guys in the Irish scene at the time, the likes of Conor Cook, an outstanding kickboxer, you know, John Redmond, the journeyman that's been around for a long time, John Michael Shield, a guy that a lot of people would have said was one of the best guys, you know, to have fought in Ireland, but for injuries and one or two other things. But like, he's been in there with guys like Danny Roberts as well, fought over in EFC Africa against Martin Van Stedden. But, you know, he was away from MMA for a good long time, from 2017 to 2021. And he came back and went on a mesmeric run, won 4 fights in a row, fighting in Ireland, and then got signed up to KSW. And he's, you know, he won 2 fights over in KSW, beat Albert Ozomowski and Christian Kawzabowski, which was a really, really good win. And you know, he's lost these couple of fights as well. You know, been knocked out a couple of times, but Henry's always there or thereabouts, and he's fighting this guy Stephen Kurt, coming from the Czech Republic. This will be his 2nd fight in KSW. He beat Boris Borkowski in his last fight. I know the record is 26-2. He lost his first 2 fights and has won 6 in a row. So whenever I look at a record like that, I look at a guy who has changed something big in his career, and you know, that might be the case here. But watching him fight, you know, I use the phrase in my notes here, warmonger, because I think that's what he is. He's a serious chin in him. Throws hard and ends up in clinches and on the ground because he throws so hard. One of these type of guys who looks tired but keeps going. You know, won titles in RFA and IAF as well. Very, very well-rounded guy. But and Felipe on the other side of it then, I would say, well-rounded as well, but more of a striker, really good power, getting better. He's grappling all the time. And this is a big fight for Henry Felipe. Again, as I said, taking this on short notice, Sean was telling me he hasn't fought since this time last year. And before that, it was 2023 as well in September. So, it's good for him to be getting another opportunity in KSW. If he loses 3 in a row, will he get another one at this stage of his career? 33. Maybe you would hope so, but I think this is the opportunity for him here. And you selfishly, maybe from an Irish point of view, you'd be hoping he take it. But Kurt is a crit even. He seems to be the next guy. And then over in the Czech Republic as well, I don't think they're bringing him in here to lose this one. So let's see how that goes. Just to run through a few of the other fights here. The welterweight division, that guy I just mentioned a minute ago, Christian Kazabowski, he is fighting Mateusz Jurczyk. Kazabowski coming out of Poland. Obviously, trained, fought a lot in KSW, 11th fight, I think, in there. One of the most exciting guys around, really good on the inside and big punches, very good wrestler as well. His opponent, Mateusz, same age, 30 years of age, fighting out of the Czech Republic, so he'll be a big crowd favourite. He's fought in Octagon as well. Former pro boxer, so he's going to be good and isn't afraid of a war either. So that's going to be a very, very interesting one there. Some of the other ones, Wilson Paiva against David Shumovsky. 11-2 against 11-3 and 2. Paiva, 15 fights into his career. He's only 22 years of age, and came over and won his debut in KSW last time out. Big, damaging guy, loads of big shots, well able to fight everywhere. But he'll be looking for the knockout here. Whereas David on the other side of it, he trains out of Ankos, so he's going to be well rounded. But he's a kickboxer as well. Big leg kicks and body kicks, flying knees and stuff like that. Very durable. So that's one you think is going to be fun. Will David try to wrestle him? We'll have to wait and see on that one. Then we've the Ukrainian Alexei Polishuk, 12-5 against 11-3 Frenchman Alfan Rocher Rable, 27 against 28 here. Very strong wrestler is the Ukrainian Alexei. Good top game. He'll be looking to get the fight to the ground, use these submissions, a few arm bars and stuff on his ledger, but he can strike as well. And then Alfan on the other side of it, good jiu-jitsu guy. Won 6 of his last 7 fights, very, very durable as well. So there is that. And then the other fights on the card, more the younger up-and-comers. There's Jackie Rash fighting out of Poland, who's 2-1, fighting the debut in Samuel Bailey. We have Joseph Stummer, 4-2 against Nassim Belawish, is the other fight in the card. So those are... that's the main things from top to bottom, I suppose. But those fights are very, very interesting to the top of the card. Just to go over again, to go over the picks again. Brickta is going to be the pick there. We'll go with Bartos. We'll go with Hamburger and Kazabowski, and I think I'll go for Stephen Crit. So people will say I'm not biased towards the Irish guys. So those are the main card picks, and that is your preview for KSW 103. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And for me, Sean Sheehan, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you all next time.